this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their mind, and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord. For all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins, and their iniquities will I remember no more. In that he saith a new covenant, he hath made the first old. Now that which decayeth and waxeth old is ready to vanish away.
According to the Holy Scriptures, Yahushai, the Son of the Most High, is set to bring immortality to the nation of Israel, the elect, via establishing the tabernacle of David, as we talk about the second coming of who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. He is coming to take down this current world ruled by Esau, Edom, and establish a righteous kingdom, which is synonymous with the throne of David. That's scriptural, which is a government that's going to run this world in righteousness.
But now hath he obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he is the mediator of a better covenant, which was established upon better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. For finding fault with them, he saith, Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel, and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith the Lord. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their mind, and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord. For all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins, and their iniquities will I remember no more. In that he saith a new covenant, he hath made the first old. Now that which decayeth and waxeth old is ready to vanish away.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Kakwadash, double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful lake, the believers, the listeners who may have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. All right, and what I want to get into, all right, today, we're dealing with, all right, prophecy, all right, news and prophecy. The last 2 days, as all these tariffs, have went into effect. Okay, and it has caused a ripple effect, on the global economy, global stock market. And at the end of the day, all right, what we're seeing, is the Lord, all right, is putting it on the mind, all right, of these devils, okay, to move closer to the collapse of this society in hopes that they're going to build a new, okay. And as this devil attempts to reset, all right, his world order, all right, his government, his economics, okay, as he get ready to set, a new world order in place, okay, to replace the old, well, there's going to be a very, it's going to be a very evil time as this man attempts to do this. All right, it's going to have a major ripple effect of violence, starvation. All right, and this is a time where the Lord, all right, is going to unleash, particular things in the earth, all right, to add to judgment. Okay, so what we're seeing is the things that we speak about, the things that, we go into, we prophesy about. These things are beginning to take effect in the earth, man, more and more. Okay, people are beginning to feel the squeeze, because as the New World Order, okay, the Edomite woman, spoke about the New World Order, and she said, expect no mercy, okay, and these devils, plan on deleting a lot of people, okay, they plan on, lights out, releasing more, pestilence, plagues, okay, and they plan on, a purge environment, man. All right, and we're just seeing the build up to these things. They're going to get worse and worse. Poverty is going to skyrocket. As inflation is on the rise. Okay, all these different, markets and industries are going to be heavily affected. Okay, because in order to bring in a new order, this old one has to be dismantled. All right, and we're watching, all right, the old world, okay, the old order being dismantled. Okay. So when you read Ezekiel 12, and I got a video I want to go into, Ezekiel 12 and 21, and it says, and the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, and I'm read 22 in the NLT, Son of man, you heard the proverb that they quote in Israel, time passes and prophecies come to nothing. Okay, because here it is, we're in the thick of prophecy. We're witnessing, this man, Esau, Edom make leaps and bounds, okay, towards prophecy, man, which is going to come, all right, with a famine, death, the sword, okay, civil unrest, okay, all these different things, that's involved, all right, at the end of this man's age, and we're seeing it formulating as we speak, and you have our people, all right, that don't have a mind towards prophecy. You have those that don't know that they're Israelites, that don't even have, they don't even care, they're not even aware of what prophecy is. And you have Israelites who should know about prophecy, and you see where their mind is at, man. Okay? So here it is. We're in the midst of prophecy, and you got a lot of jakes as of late. It's an uptick in scoffing, and trying to debunk, the doctrine. You have Jake spending all this time trying to debunk what we are, while prophecy, is being set in effect in the earth, man. Okay? Verse 23 says, tell them therefore, thus said the Lord power, I will make this proverb to cease, and they shall no more use it as a proverb in Israel, but say unto them, the days are at hand, and the effect of every vision, man. The days are at hand, and the effect of every vision. Okay, and we're finna feel the effects. See, Jake is finna feel prophecy, man. It's gonna go from the prophet's warning about what's to come to just being in it. It's gonna be the famine of the word. All right, and people are just gonna be in the prophecies, man. They're just gonna feel the prophecies. Okay, so let's go here, because you had this latest with your guy Trump and his move with tariffs. Well, Trump is just a do boy for the elites. All right, that's why you see him tanking the economy. Which things could, they can tank and come back, or tank, come back, and eventually it's gonna tank and not come back. So what we're seeing, it can recover, and because it's what you call a shock. Some people just react, and it can recover. But this is the Lord showing us the times that we are in. Okay, because it's gonna come a time where this thing tanks and it doesn't come back. They're gonna go all the way with it. Okay, until it just completely collapse. All right, so let's play a little bit of this, and then we'll go from there.
President Trump went out into the Rose Garden and announced these new across-the-board tariffs that he had been hinting at for a very long time. And this hits almost every nation, and definitely hits our largest trading partners. So we're talking about tariff rates as high as 34% on China, 20% from goods from the European Union, and almost, no country was spared here. And President Trump has been calling this Liberation Day, liberation from U.S. consumers having to pay for foreign goods. He wants to bring manufacturing back domestically, and he thinks this is the right way to do it, even though almost every economy says this could really hurt U.S. consumers. President Trump's ultimate goal of bringing bringing manufacturing from abroad from abroad back to the U.S. And that's not going to happen overnight. It takes time for factories to get built up. It takes time to hire workers. This is why President Trump acknowledges that there may be short-term pain, but he's already declaring victory. In a social media post this morning, he said the operation is over, the patient has survived. But if you look at almost all economic indicators, that's not necessarily the case right now. But there's no doubt that this is wreaking much havoc on the global economy. And world leaders have said and told President Trump, told the White House, that they don't like tariffs. They don't like this tit-for-tat trade war that's going to result if the United States goes ahead with these tariffs. But once the U.S. imposes their own taxes, other countries say they have no choice but to impose their own tariffs.
This is
And this double, I think it said Trump put tariffs on 185 countries. So lock you. I think it disconnected. Well, we should be good. Yeah, disconnected for a minute. Our routers are we good. But yeah, but when you go into it, this devil, put, tariffs on 185, countries. Now, brother can fact check me, but I think it's only 192 countries in the world. 194, right at 200. Brother can fact check it. All right, but these devils, America put tariffs on 185 countries, man. That's in the 90-something percentile, man. Okay. This man put tariffs on the earth, and it's meant to tank the economy. It's meant to cause a ripple effect, because it ain't Trump sitting in the office coming up with these policies, man. All right, you have to understand this devil, all right, has a very complex system of government, all right, and Trump, is being given orders by these think tanks, all right. The elites tell these think tanks what they want, and they go into the data and they study the outcomes and, change this and that, have plan A and plan B and, contingency plans. And, all right. And then they present it to Trump. Okay. And Trump presents it to the public. Okay. But Trump is not, all right, drinking coffee in the morning. Okay. Thinking of, what to do next. All right. He's been told what to do. Okay. And these goddamn devils, especially think tanks, these Teamanites, okay, they have they know the ripple effect, like they'll cause, like what Trump doing now. You see, they know the futures of what Trump is doing, what he's going to do 4 months down the line, 6 months down the line. Okay, so they'll put these things out there, and Trump, just doing the acting, the show and dance as if he's doing a major thing. You see him here, okay, with the with the pen, okay, with the executive order open, okay, and then people look at that, cheer, and dance as if he's doing some great thing, okay, but meanwhile, he's just a character meant to distract you while they dismantle, okay, America, man, this whole global system, okay, so I'm gonna let some more of this play.
This is the Nations Conspire channel. Welcome to today's show. The real reason Donald Trump is destroying the economy. Well, that's a very good title for an conservator going to tell the American people the real reason that Donald Trump is destroying the economy. And as you heard, stock markets are plummeting, but not just in America, around the world right now. And what's different this time is just that it's not just the U.S. economy that's being tanked. It's the global economy that's being tanked. We've obviously seen times where the stock market has gone down. We've been trained when the stock market goes down to assume that it's going to go back up. But is this the time that the economy, that the stock market finally tanks for good? Because in order to move forward with Agenda 2030 and the New World Order, the dollar has to tank. Global economies have to tank. And while many people were thinking that a world war would bring about economic destruction, how about just good old-fashioned sabotage, like I've been saying for years now? Sabotage, sabotage, sabotage. While nobody can make any sense of the tariffs that are going on, everybody's turning a blind eye to it and not realizing the plan has been death to America all along. Remember in Leave the World Behind, that movie that so perfectly Barry Sortoro, Barack Obama's production company, produced, that told us how they were going to bring down America? Remember that?
You know, I'm flying in the middle of nowhere, dropping off thousands of these. I have no idea what it says. Death to America. What? Death to America. But this part, it definitely means death to America. I remember from a game I was playing. Death to America.
Of course, that movie had the blueprint in it and the things that are to come. But Trump's tariffs have...
And what we have to understand, all right, the New World Order, all right, doesn't involve a strong America. Okay, America, you know, is being weakened on purpose. Okay, because the government, all right, of this New World Order is going to be more centralized and it's going to be based in the East. Okay, and that's why you see all this economic growth in the East, you know, with China, you know, Russia, India, okay. These different, you know, even these certain Arab, you know, states, okay, and Esau is dumping a lot of money into their region, okay, because he wants to rule, all right, in the centralized government from the East, okay, and America has ran this course. You know, America has been, you know, it has put these nations in debt, you know, through the dollar, okay, it has weakened these nations economically and, you know, through military, okay. It has pretty much put puppets, you know, all throughout the earth, you know, as far as governors and leaders and presidents, all right, people that are down with the New World Order. So America has played its role as the bully of the earth, all right. But now that these nations, you know, have been aligned, all right, for this New World Order, America has served its purpose, and now we're seeing it being dismantled, okay. You see, right before our eyes. All right, and they put these puppets, these characters in front of you, Trump and Elon, as if they're here, all right, to bring, you know, America's heyday back, when it's the exact opposite, man. Okay, they're here to distract you while these things fall. Okay, so let's let some more play. Let's see the brother put some. Okay.
Shock the global markets at levels unseen since the plan. And for anybody out there, I've been saying it for a while. I've been saying it since the pandemic. If you thought that that was the Great Reset, think again. The Great Reset involves bringing down global economies. Agenda 2030 is all about bringing in a new world order. And Donald Trump is the one who's doing it. And the MAGA conservatives can't even see it. Why? Well, because they constantly get distracted with manufactured news stories that keep them stuck in the left-right paradigm and divided with their neighbors over political affiliations, right? That's why stories like this have come out in the last couple of days, and they're obsessed with it, right? Say his name, Austin Metcalf. Supposed story of a young teenager who was killed at a high school track meet in Texas. Of course, conveniently, he was killed by a black person, because when you have a black person and a white person and you have Democrats and Republicans and you have all these means to divide the people, why wouldn't you create a story like this? Conveniently, if you didn't know, he also happens to have a twin brother who's doing interviews. It couldn't be Austin Metcalf, could it? Who's doing the interviews right after he's been stabbed, and his father doing interviews and his mom doing interviews, right? Not grieving too long. And of course, how convenient, and nobody would ever think that they would stage and put Austin Metcalf's brother on the news, and that maybe it could actually be the guy that we're told tragically was killed in a track meet. But this is manufactured news. So
now, even with this story too, you know, has it Jake, you know, supposedly stabbed this Edomite, you know, this, you know, this you know, how conveniently he's just this 4.0, you know, GPA athletic Edomite, okay, that is stabbed up by Jake, you know. And this also, they're going to spin this, you know, towards a scientific racism, you know, to prove that, you know, they're pushing the narrative that Jake is just inherently violent, you know, which that's another lesson for another time. You know, they're going to spin it towards that way too. You know, so this devil just has a lot going on. But this is another distraction, all right, as they dismantle. Okay? This is another distraction while they dismantle. They're going to make this story be the hype. You got this argument, you know, these big arguments online back and forth with, you know, Jake and Esau going back and forth. And, you know, you got Matt Walsh, you know, he made a statement, okay, which, you know, he's a big, you know, supporter of scientific racism theory, okay, fascist, which has to do with nationalism. So you have, you know, civil unrest, you know, racial tension, you know, is being brewed up while this devil, you know, is just dismantling, all right, the American government and ultimately the global government, because all government is attached, you know, to American government. Okay, that's why America, you know, is able to put sanctions on any government in the world. Okay, they're able to have, you know, military intervention with every government in the world. Okay, so the America decline is the global decline. All right, so let's play some more.
While their boy Donald Trump is killing the economy, this is what all the big libs of TikTok, all the controlled media is talking about. They're not talking about sabotaging the economy, how the tariff plan is a disaster plan, how it's a disaster for consumers, civilians. They're talking about this stuff that comes out, right? Fox News, hug your babies tight, grieving mother and brother, the identical twin, on Fox News that evening, very shortly after all this stuff went on, and everybody is in an uproar. It's trending all over. These are the other stories that are out there. Police say they've caught Tesla bubble gum vandalizer. This is the nonsense that these people in the conservative MAGA party care about. They see the picture, right? Perfectly. I mean, you couldn't have come up with an AI image of what you would define a liberal Democrat person to look like, right? A woman, what they call them, butch, with short hair, a bubblegum vandalizer. They're obsessed with all this stuff going on with Tesla. They're obsessed with these stories about a poor white kid. How come we're not having any white lives matters things go on when a white boy stabbed by a black child? This is what they've manufactured, and they've manufactured it for a reason. So when things like this happen out in the open where it's obvious and you could see Donald Trump sabotaging the economy, these people are just taking the bait that the government's feeding them with manufactured news and caring about these types of stories instead of waking up and saying, hey, wait a minute, maybe Trump really is one of them. Maybe this is the Great Reset. Maybe all that is actually true. Maybe he is a traitor. No, they're too busy. So Trump tweets out, the operation is over. The patient lived and is healing. The prognosis is that the patient will be far stronger, bigger, better, and more resilient than ever before. Make America great again, right? And you'd think that that kind of a response to the stock market tanking, especially when Donald Trump has been somebody who's been so vocal about when Democrats like Biden are in power, how the economy, if it goes down for a day or two or for a week, that they need to be impeached. But now that he's in office, well, the operation is over. The patient lived. He's trying to give people hope that in the long run, this is better for America. But as we know, time is their friend, not ours. And as time goes on and people become desensitized to the destruction of the market, they'll just keep getting distracted by design by little stories like the ones I just told you. Instead of saying, wow, is Trump a part of this? Maybe the people need to rise up and realize that your vote doesn't count, that these people do work together. But the people on Twitter and social media, they sum it up perfectly where their mindset's at, right? Bob Parsons, absolutely stand with Trump. The Great American Reset has been a long time coming. Here's another guy, another parent social influencer, Nick Sortor, right? And this is the stuff he's telling his audience. This is how easy it is to deceive these people. Breaking, World Economic Forum founder Klaus Schwab has informed the board he will be resigning. Another massive blow to globalism, thanks to President Trump. Because what the alt-right media is talking about...
So now they're trying to say that the reason, you know, Klaus Schwab is supposed to be stepping down because he's afraid of Donald Trump. You know, and these people just run with these random narratives that they put out there. Okay, because the people, you know, have been so dumbed down. You know, the American citizen, okay, are the dumbest citizens on the earth. Okay, and that's because they're full of, you know, they're addicted to entertainment. Okay, drugged out, the worst diet on earth. Okay, yeah, the school system, which, you know, dumbs you down. Okay, so when you go here to Proverbs 14 and 15, it says, I read this in the NLT, it says, only simpletons believe everything they're told, the prudent carefully consider their steps. Okay, so only simpletons, all right, as we see America, has been, been the most simple, all right, has been reduced to the most simple country in the earth. Okay, well, you look at the arguments, people have podcasts and are millionaires based off stupid ass arguments, man. Okay, you look at the talking points of America, it's extremely simple. You look at the culture, what people call culture and lifestyle in America, deaf culture. Okay, people repeating the same mistakes, over and over and over again. Okay, and complaining about the results, because it's a very simple society, man. Okay, and it's easy, to persuade, because America, has very short-term memory. Okay, and it's easy to get them to run, with a narrative, okay, a new narrative every other week. You see, so now Trump, is this bully, and he's single-handedly just running away. Okay, globalists and nah, man. Okay, but the simple, all right, believe every word. All right. This is verse 16. It says, the wise are cautious. Okay, the scripture tells us to be circumspect in these times and avoid danger. Fools plunge ahead with reckless confidence, man. All right, and people just have this reckless confidence, in America going on, the security of this system, this society. Okay, their government having their best interest. Okay, and no matter how many times the government shows that it doesn't have the interests of the people in mind, all right, people, still run with these narratives as if, there's good guys within the government. No, man, all of them are corrupt from top to bottom. All right, left, right, conservative, liberal, okay, independent, whatever you want to call it. All right, these different organizations and, these different characters, Candace Owens, all of them are corrupt. Okay, and they work for the same agenda. Okay, and it's built to keep people simple. It's just a blender of distractions meant to keep people simple. And this is why Yahweh Shai told us to be in this mindset. All right, Matthew 26, okay, and 41. Matthew 26, all right, and 41, it says, watch and pray that you enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Okay, so we've been told to watch, and pray. So we're watching these things, man, in the spirit. Okay, we're watching, prophecy happen real time, and praying, to endure, to have the strength, for the straight gate. Okay, as we know, it's finna get uncomfortable, it's finna get extremely violent, but we're, comforted by the scriptures, and there's promises of us being provided for in times of scarcity, man. Okay, and we got to lean on these things in this time, man. You see? So let's go back to it and play some more.
While the economy's tanking, while nobody can make sense of this tariff war that's going on, but of course it's brilliantly designed by the globalists and Trump is executing it brilliantly like the actor that he is. They're talking about stuff like this, saying Klaus Schwab is resigning from the World Economic Forum because Donald Trump has scared him into submission. They forget about how Donald Trump was just speaking at the World Economic Forum.
Mr. President, hello. What great honor. What great honor and pleasure to welcome you back to the Davos community. Just 4 days into your new mandate, we highly appreciate your presence with us today. And I will ask you maybe a personal question, but before doing so, I just
sounds very interesting.
Acknowledge.
I didn't know about this one.
I would like to acknowledge the strong presence of your cabinet members, who tremendously contributed to the discussions.
Good. I would like to do that. That's very good.
Yeah. Now,
Stephen, Wilbur, Gary, Robert, even my general and my various other generals, we're making our military protection a little bit better for us too. So thank you very much. Does everybody understand that? I think so.
Why is it better to be here in Davos than in Washington, D.C.?
Well, we're here meeting with world leaders, the biggest, most important people in the world, and most important people in the world. We look forward to being here. Klaus has done a fantastic job.
Talking about how wonderful everybody there is. Klaus was kissing his rear end. He was kissing it back. He's been there many times talking about what a wonderful man Klaus is. But what the funniest part of all of it is that this story is out there. This story is trending over what Trump's doing to the economy. And it's not a new story. That's what's incredible about it. That shows you that these people are in a psychosis. I reported on this last year. Okay? Last May. Look at the dates on the articles. May 21st, 2024. I have videos on the website. World Economic Forum founder Klaus Schwab steps back from executive post. There was
And see, this was a story, reported on almost a year ago, 11 months ago. Okay, and they can just bring these stories back out and put the spin on it as if Trump is the reason that he's stepping down, and people just run with it as Trump is, they built, a hero out of Trump. They built an idol, out of this guy Trump. Okay, and he's a major psyops, as they take this place down. He keeps people entertained. He's controversial. Okay, he has these jokes. He's unpredictable. Okay, he has, this promise of he's this, this oral, this business savvy. You see, so this guy Trump is a major psyops. While the elites, take this place down. Okay, and I want to fast forward here some more. All right, see, brother got it. Okay, this the brother Naquam 777, Proverbs 22:3. A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on our punishment. And the Lord has given us a spirit to where we walk in the light, to where we're not deceived, okay, by the gimmicks, all right, and the schemes of Esau Edom. Let's go here to St. John, but we're watching the masses, all right, especially you Israelites, okay, walk on to this punishment that's coming. Because trusting in this devil in this time, see, we hide ourselves by repenting, by separating from this world, by living after Yahweh by Shem Shai. Okay, that's putting us in a good standings with our power when judgment go forth, man. Okay, matter of fact, let me get that. Then we'll get that in the book of John. Let's get this in the book of Sirach, chapter 18, in verse 20. It said, "Before judgment, examine thyself, and in the day of visitation, thou shalt find mercy." Okay. Before judgment, examine thyself, and in the day of visitation, thou shalt find mercy, man. So we're in the spirit of examining ourselves, getting on point, making adjustments, trying to be as pleasing as we can, to Yahweh by Shema Shah before judgment comes, man. Okay, but you have the simple of our people, you got niggas for Trump, okay, nigga woman, think she for Trump, and you have our people. They're still just, all they know is this system, this society, man. Okay, and they're constantly getting worse. All right, as judgment is at hand. Okay, but they're darkened, okay, by the distraction of this society, man, by the lust, the allure of this society, the false hope. Okay, John 8 and 12 said, "Then spake Yahweh Shai again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life," man. See, we're on the path that's leading to rulership with Yahweh Shai. Okay, while 2/3 of our people, they're still groping, all right, in the noonday. And the noonday is the brightest time, okay? Because every day, all right, guess what? More videos go out. This light is shining forth brighter and brighter because you got new brothers. The brothers that's been in are, shining brighter than when they first came in. So this light is shining brighter and brighter. We're in the noonday, and Jake is still groping. Okay? So let's go here and go back to the video.
And economic economic system. It refers to the concept of a single, unified global authority overseeing both political and economic aspects of the world, potentially leading to a world government and a global currency. Okay, global currency is so important in all of this.
The 2030 agenda is all about instituting the United Nations as that one global authority that's going to dictate everything.
They are obsessed with the idea that there are too many of us on this planet.
The Sustainable Development Goals at the very heart are communist goals. And the real question is, why?
Let's legalize corruption, but it's called donating money to political campaigns.
I mean, why is the Rockefeller Foundation so invested in the LGBTQ movement? It has nothing to do with what the Rockefeller Foundation is about.
There's always been a group of people that thought they had a level of intelligence that was so unique that they needed to dominate the world.
History slowly at the turning point.
But if these megalomaniacs get their way with their one world political and economic system that they're trying to build, a lot of us won't wake up. Those who do wake up really can look forward to a future of slavery.
There's no other path out of this mess than for the American people to become educated enough to act in a way that will create genuine reform.
You can't get to a
So, you know, this is where everything is trending, man. You know, one world government, you know, a digital system, okay? And the elites, you know, thinking that they're going to double down, you know, and extend their rulership, all right, when the Lord has already spoken against it, all right? So at the end of the day, you know, all right, we're finna go through, all right, these times of tribulation that the scriptures, you know, speak about. Okay, so poverty is going to increase in America like people never thought. Okay, you know, EMPs, you know, the grid going down. All right, and this America, okay, being plagued is ancient Egypt. Let's go here. I'll get a couple more. All right, we'll close it out. But let's go here to 2nd Ezra chapter 15. Okay, and verse 10, it says, "Behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt." Okay, and that's the elect. Okay, because as this place gets closer to judgment, we're getting closer to deliverance. Lord will we of that number. Okay, but I will bring them with a mighty hand, which is Yahweh Shai, and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt, which is America, with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof, man, because that final plague is going to be the nukes. Okay, but just as ancient Egypt economy, you know, was attacked, all right, this place economy going to be attacked. You know, ancient Egypt dwelt in darkness. This place is going to dwell in darkness, man. That grid being shut down, you know, with the teeth of wild beast, all right, pestilence, you know, sicknesses, you know, diseases is going to go crazy and rampant, all right, and the Lord's going to torment this place before he turns it to a desert, man. All right, so we're living in the build up to these times. Okay, the effect of these prophecies, all right, is going to settle into the earth, man. Okay, and it's going to overwhelm the masses. All right, so that's the point. You know, Lord will, you brothers. All right, and you sisters was edified. Till next time, I say shalom.